Okay, everybody, welcome. Today in Crypto Kid TV, we discuss Democrats have no direction. So, if you've been following for the last couple of weeks with the confirmation of 21 out of 22 Donald Trump cabinet picks, the Democrats seem to be in a meltdown and they have no direction. Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, appears to be quite defensive, and Republicans are running a victory lap after having a temporary budget pass, which avoids a government shutdown. So, to the point that the Democrats are infighting. Both AOC and Nancy Pelosi have criticized Chuck Schumer for negotiating with Donald Trump and voting for Donald Trump. Both House representative members both have openly threatened Chuck Schumer. Both AOC has publicly said she will primary Chuck Schumer, and if you know anything about AOC, she primaried the third longest Democrat and took his seat in New York for the House in that district. So she knows what she's doing. She's a dangerous woman. Chuck Schumer better watch out. And then Nancy Pelosi, the Gothic mythical creature figure, has also threatened Chuck Schumer because she wanted to stick it to Donald Trump by shutting down the government, the DC government, and contradicting what the Democrats have criticized Republicans of doing. So if you recall, Marco Rubio was a part of the shutdown during Barack Obama's presidency, and Nancy Pelosi wanted to return the favor. These people care nothing about the country itself, and they have no shame in showing it. Now, let's go to Chaos Erupts. Let me pull this up. Chaos at the Doge hearing with Elon Musk. So let's see how long this lasts, but let's pull this up so you guys can see the degree to which the Democrats are melting down live on public television. These people have no shame, no couth. They do not care. And now the cat's out of the bag.
For those 4 years, 4 of those 8 years.
In his second reelect, in all those campaigns, he has been consistent. And for any member of this body to say otherwise is just saying unfactual representation of President Trump. I now recognize the ranking member from Massachusetts, Mr. Neal, for his opening
Thanks,
statement.
Mr. Chairman. Just before I yield my time, can we all agree that there is nobody 300 years old receiving a Social Security check? Can we also agree that 99.2% of Social Security recipients receive their checks on time? And 72 million Americans receive Social Security, and we're complaining about 1,000 hours of man and woman power? Members of Congress spend a lot of their time making sure those checks are on time. The head of Doge has said that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, and the president has not corrected him. I yield the balance of my time to Mr. Larson for his great work on Social Security.
Thank you, Mr. Neal, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said earlier, it's a sad day for America when the Committee of Cognizance has to have this issue of inquiry so that we can actually produce before the committee, instead of an empty seat and empty chairs, the person who President Trump has designated to find $2 trillion worth of cuts. A person who has publicly said that he knows where to find those. They're in what he calls entitlements. What everybody on this committee knows with regard to Social Security is an earned benefit that they pay. And so the people in your districts are wondering whether or not, because the chairman just said that there's no way that President Trump is going to touch Social Security, even though last weekend he called it a scam, and that Elon Musk was on television just last night again saying that, yes, their goal is to privatize Social Security. Given these statements, I don't understand why there's a problem with bringing forth Mr. Musk to testify before this committee. And if he's got
And so we're going to stop right there. So that's just an illustration of how lame the Democrats have become. They have no direction. And it's because what they decided to campaign on were hollow, empty promises and they were issues that not even the majority of America are on. Specifically, the Democrats have campaigned on abortion and women's rights. And when they talk about women's rights, they're only talking about one right, and it's her right to an abortion. It's nothing else except that. And it's so one is led to believe that the only thing the Democrats care about is a woman's ability to have an abortion up until the 9th month, a week or two before the baby is due to be born. That seems to be the only thing. And somehow they justify that is okay. And so these people are deranged. These people are misguided. They don't have God in their life. They don't have direction. They forgot what they stood for. They don't even know what they stand for. And now they're at a point where their rhetoric, their meaningless chatter has painted them into a corner where they don't know what to stand for, because they've allowed a radical minority portion of the population that doesn't even represent even a 1/4% of the population. They've allowed those people's values to dominate their political agenda. And the number one topic that and the reason is because we all know there's more women than men in this world and in this country. So it appears that the Democratic strategy is to placate to the fact that there are more women than men in the world and in the United States. Therefore, there have to be more women registered to vote. And if that's the case, the number one issue that they're assuming is that the number one issue to a woman is her ability to have an abortion under any circumstance. And that's the number one thing that matters to her. Healthcare doesn't matter. Her children, a family, nothing matters. And that's what these people have campaigned on, which makes them so antisocial, misguided, anti-religion, anti-God, anti-government. And the reason why they have so much anger is because that they realize that a lot of these government departments, agencies that have been created over the last 50, 75 years, going all the way back to, let's say, 1950. So we have 75 years of government programs that have been created with good intentions, whether it was USAID in the intent that President John F. Kennedy had. And then we find out that whatever he truly meant it for is, hey, he fought in World War II. He was overseas. He saw that other countries did not have the economic advantage or equality to get educated. So he wanted to create USAID to allow children in Africa and parts of Asia, him coming from fighting in World War II. He's thinking, hey, so he's elected 15 years after World War II ended. So he's thinking, hey, there's children in Africa, Asia, other parts of Europe, as well as Spanish-speaking countries that do not have access to equal education that will allow them to become industrious and compete with the United States. So he put this money aside, and he comes to find, well, and it was great intentions. And then we come to find out, just like with the Department of Education, Jimmy Carter had a great idea of creating the Department of Education with the intent to make a uniform quality of education that regardless of what state you were raised in, you'd have access to. And then the Department of Education is a slush fund where universities keep escalating the costs of their tuition to the point where they, and this has only happened once the U.S. government began guaranteeing student loans. Okay. Previous to that time, only African Americans had access to financial aid. So African Americans were the only ones that could get student loans. Student loans were not available to the general public, to white people. They had to take loans out on their homes to put their children through education, through college. But once the U.S. government began to guarantee the student loans, we've noticed over the last 30, 35 years that the cost of college education has escalated to a point where people don't even pay off their student loans previous to retiring. That's how crazy it's gotten. So USAID is a slush fund for Democrats and nonprofit 501c where they're kicking back their family, supporting all of their fraternity and sorority sisters through billions of dollars that's supposed to go and help these foreign countries. And most of the money is being redirected to these nonprofit 501cs. And that is why if Elon Musk reveals the Obamas, the Clintons, all these people receiving money, Liz Cheney and Chuck Schumer have already been uncovered, that his life could definitely be in danger. And as he's already said, if I go too hard on exposing the crimes of USAID and Social Security, that could get me killed. He's already come out and said that publicly. So he understands the brevity of this matter, and also to the extent that the corruption is. So as long as he can continue, and that's why they're having all these judges block his access, because they're unraveling this Ponzi scheme that the Democrats have imposed on our federal government. So with that, we're going to be back. I predict this coming, we're not going to have any economic plan until April Fool's. So let's go, not April 2nd. Let's go April 5th, April 7th. I don't expect anything to be revealed from the Trump administration on the direction of the economy. I just think too much has been spent on these lawsuits, this focus. He now has his 21 of 22 cabinet members. It's time for Donald Trump to get it together and start unveiling what his economic plan is. He's still going to need more time for DOJ to uncover all of these problems. And by having a temporary budget pass and avoiding a government shutdown, it at least buys Trump 6 to 7 months to continue to uncover all of the fraud and corruption that DOJ is doing and will continue to do. And it's my understanding that there's about $2 trillion. And right now we're only at 105 billion. It's going to escalate. Let's find out savings by DOJ. Okay, DOJ, we go to DOJ.gov, the latest work, the audit report. Uh-oh. So let's hit savings. All right, we've uncovered another 10 billion. So right now we're at $115 billion that DOJ has uncovered. And so, as I said, what's going to happen is that by DOJ continuing to uncover fraud, waste, and abuse, it gets added to the savings. President Trump, through his executive powers, can cut this money, even though it was allocated during the previous administration. He can also go back and get $2 billion from USAID that was given to a Stacey Abrams organization. And as he continues to recover this, there's 1.9 billion left for Doge to uncover. That's $2 trillion. Okay. That means that by the time we get to September, which is when this emergency budget ends, this extension ends, then that gives Trump like 6 months. That gives him 6 months to uncover more fraud, waste, and abuse by Doge, and also to negotiate with the House on coming up with a budget, a real plausible budget, and then getting that passed in the Senate. But this buys Donald Trump time. In addition to that, if we get to September and he needs to get in another additional emergency budget passed, he can use the savings that's uncovered by Doge to reallocate that money to stimulate the economy. That is the big coup. So with that, we're out of here. We'll keep you informed. I don't believe until April 5th or 7th that there's going to be much to report on the financial markets. I believe it's going to zigzag until that time, until President Trump begins revealing what his economic stimulus plan is. But as I've said before, he can't really reveal that until he could get into passing a budget, and he knows that. So he has some ideas. He has some pet projects he'd like to see go through. But until he can get more Republicans on board to passing a budget, he can't really roll that out. And so this 6 additional months allows him to go back and forth with Congress, both the House, both the Senate, bouncing off these ideas he has for reform to get a feel for what both the House and the Senate are willing to pass. So with that, we're out of here. Thank you so much. And remember, the future is crypto.